York was a hot spot for drugs during the 60s and 70s. If you wanted good drugs, you had to head to Harlem to get them. One of the most profitable drugs was heroin. Heroin is a highly addictive drug, derived from morphine, which is extracted from the opium poppy plant. This drug made one particular drug dealer very rich. This man's name was Frank Superfly Lucas. Frank Lucas was probably one of the most lucrative drug dealers of that time period. He was well known for cutting out the middleman, which meant he purchased his drugs directly from the source. Frank Lucas was born September 30th, 1930 in LaGrange, North Carolina. He grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina. At the age of 6, he witnessed his cousin get murdered by 5 members of the KKK for looking at a white woman. He was the oldest of 9 siblings, so he had to figure out a way to put food on the table and his family to survive. He began stealing food and mugging intoxicated customers outside of taverns. In his later teen years, he got a job as a truck driver. That job turned out bad because he was caught sleeping with the boss's daughter. As you can tell, a fight broke out, and he knocked the boss out with a pipe. Following that, he stole $400 from the company and lit the establishment on fire. Lucas's mother found out, and she advised him to flee to New York to escape the negativity in North Carolina because he wasn't doing anything positive with his life. When he moved to New York, it was a springboard to a whole new level of crime for Frank. He started out with petty crime until he met Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, who was a longtime Harlem gangster in 1963, and Bumpy took him under his wing and showed him the ropes of Harlem. Bumpy himself was a drug traffic dealer, a drug trafficker, and a mob boss, affiliated with the Italian Mafia. Johnson passed away in 1968, which is when Lucas began to create his own drug empire. That is when he took over Harlem. He came to the realization that the way he would become successful is if he broke up the Italian Mafia monopoly in New York City. In 1968, he traveled to Bangkok, Thailand, and met a man named Leslie Ike Atkinson. Atkinson led Frank Lucas to the source Liuchi Rubawad, who they called 007, who controlled several hundreds of acres of poppy fields, the main ingredient in heroin. These poppy fields are located in the Golden Triangle. The Golden Triangle is a dense jungle bordering Thailand, Burma, and Laos. There, the heroin is 98 to 100% pure. Military personnel were used to set up this international trafficking system. They mostly assisted with the smuggling of the product into the United States. These militants were often paid large sums of money so that Frank Lucas wouldn't get caught. Frank Lucas was smart because he kept his circle tight with people he trusted. He only used people that were close friends and contracted relatives from his time in North Carolina. He hired young women to mix heroin with the chemicals that were necessary to make the drug. These women were only allowed to wear plastic gloves, so basically they did all their work naked in plastic gloves. The operation really began rolling, and the money began to pour in. At the peak of his operation, Frank Lucas had over $52 million in the bank in the Cayman Islands, and 1,000 kilograms of heroin, and each heroin kilogram was worth $300,000. And if you don't know, a kilogram is 2.2 pounds. Frank Lucas also had a number of businesses in which that he could say that he made his money off of. He purchased businesses like dry cleaning, and he had a string of gas stations. He also had a string of offices in Detroit, apartments in Los Angeles, Miami, and Puerto Rico. He also had an 1,000-acre ranch in North Carolina with 300 black Angus cattle and a prize breeding bull. He often purchased expensive clothes, minks for example, and jewelry, but preferred to dress casual so he wouldn't attract too much attention to himself. Another way he got his drugs into the country, dirty police assisted him in his operation. The New York Police Department Special Investigations Unit was very corrupt at the time, known for their dirty cops. The head of the SIU, Bob Liucci, actually caught Lucas one time. He caught him with several kilos of heroin and crack in his trunk and let him go for $30,000 and 2 kilograms of heroin. On January 28, 1975, Frank Lucas's Teaneck, New Jersey house was raided. In the house, they found $580,000 in cash, keys to his Cayman Island deposit boxes, property deeds, and tickets to the United States Ball. 10 people were arrested, none Frank Lucas. Lucas was convicted, tried, sentenced, and sentenced to 70 years in prison. Lucas actually testified, leading to 150 multi-defendant cases. Basically, he ratted everybody out. Due to his cooperation, his sentence was reduced to 15 years. A third of the police that were corrupt were actually sentenced also. He was released in 1981. In 1984, he was once again arrested for trying to trade an ounce of heroin for $12,000 and a kilogram of cocaine. He was sentenced to 7 years and released in 1991. In conclusion, Frank Lucas is still recognized as one of the most famous and lucrative drug dealers ever. He is also responsible for most of the devastation and crime caused to the Harlem area during the time. He was such a recognized man that the movie American Gangster was made after him in 2007, in which he was portrayed by Denzel Washington. Nowadays, Frank Lucas has retired from drug dealing and is confined to a wheelchair due to a car accident that broke both of his legs. Thank you for his time.